The star-shaped fortress, or citadel, is formally known as Fort George and was completed in 1856 after 28 years of construction. It was designed to prevent a land-based attack by the United States. The fort never came under attack and was garrisoned by the British Army until 1906, and then by the Canadian Army throughout the First and Second World Wars. After the Second World War, the hill and its defences were designated a National Historic Site of Canada. Parks Canada has restored the fort to the mid-Victorian period. Soldiers of the 78th Highland Regiment, the 3rd Brigade of the Royal Artillery, soldiers' wives and civilian tradespersons all reenact life in the fort in the year 1869. Every day of the year, with the exception being December 25th, soldiers execute the daily ceremonial firing of the noon gun, which was the only official time mark some of the town's residents had at the time. Along with its rich history, the Halifax Citadel also boasts 36 documented ghost sightings over the years, making it one of Canada's most haunted national historic sites. Parks Canada employee Harold R. Thompson wrote a book entitled Ghosts and Folklore of the Halifax Citadel, which recounts some of the sightings and strange occurrences that have been reported by staff and visitors over the years. The Halifax Citadel Regimental Association also provides ghost tours throughout the year for those interested in getting a guided and spirited account of the stories. On October 26, 2011, LWPI were proud to be the first paranormal investigation team ever granted after-hours access to conduct a formal investigation of the fort. Our guides for this evening were Hal Thompson, Visitor Experience Product Development Officer for Parks Canada and author of the aforementioned book of the Citadel Hauntings, as well as Mr. Mike Adams, Interpretive Programming Supervisor for the Halifax Citadel Regimental Association. We were also joined by our special guest, local radio personality Deb Smith from C100. The group split into two teams. Team 1, consisting of Lindsay, Steve, Deb, Hal, and myself, headed down into the garrison cells first, while Team 2, consisting of Nikki, Yvette, Megan, and Mr. Adams, all headed off to investigate the musketry gallery. We made our way into the garrison cells, where Hal recounted an exchange that he had witnessed a couple of summers ago. The woman, a tourist, was in a heated discussion with her husband when she approached the corporal of the guard to ask about a soldier that she had seen when she entered the garrison cells.
Came down the stairway, and she said she came down first, and she just got here, and she looked in the door, and there was a man standing right there, dressed in a blue coat with yellow lines across the front. And he turned and walked into the next room. Naturally, she assumed he was an interpreter in costume, so she went into the room. And went into the inner room. Of course, there's no door in there. And she said, "Where did he go?" And her husband behind her didn't see this guy. And she said, "You didn't see anybody." "Yes, I did." I said, "No, you didn't." Anyway, that was it. They argued and went out the gate. And I just turned to Steve, the guy I was standing with, and said, "That was pretty interesting."
What was even more interesting about this story is that the woman provided a very accurate description of a uniform that would have been worn by a soldier stationed in that area of the fort during the Victorian era. While Hal was telling his story, you'll notice that Lindsay's attention is drawn to her right briefly, and when she doesn't see anything, she turns back. Just after that, the camera catches a quick flash of light low to the ground beside her.
Anyway, that was it. They argued and went out the gate. And I just turned to
There is no explanation for what could have caused this. Myself and other LWPI members often witness these flashes of light with our naked eyes during investigations. Just as we start setting up our equipment, an orb shoots past Deb and I and goes straight through the middle of the back wall. I've slowed down the footage so that you can see that it actually emits a light which is reflected on the ceiling before it arcs down and disappears into the wall. Dust and bugs do not reflect light onto other surfaces.
Kent, who was the garrison commander, he was a Victorian garrison grounds was only existed since the construction of this fort, and it was never supposed to be there. They were supposed to fill it in and make it part of this side of the hill, but they started using it for parades and things like that. So it was primarily used for nice stuff like parades, concerts, cricket matches, and football matches, and things like that.
That's pretty cool. Are you hearing anything? I thought I heard footsteps. Oh, I don't like my own voice. I know it's weird when you hear yourself. I heard footsteps.
Here's the audio that Lindsay was listening to as it recorded. The footsteps she heard were clearly picked up and sound like hard-soled shoes on the stone floor.
So it was primarily used for nice stuff like parades, concerts, cricket matches, and football matches, and things like that.
That's pretty cool. Are you hearing anything? I thought I heard footsteps.
Take a listen to the flagpole because the lines are slapping. Because it can fool you if you're not used to hearing it. It sounds a bit like footsteps, not a whole lot. But if you go with the door, you can hear it.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Wait. After you stopped talking, I heard a man.
Mm-hmm.
Mark that.
I'll stop talking.
It wasn't you. It wasn't your voice. Can you do me a favor, Lindsay? Mm-hmm. Can you run out and just make sure there's nobody out in that stairwell out there? Mm-hmm.
Lindsay checked things out and confirmed that the stairwell was empty. When we loop the audio, you can hear a man's voice speaking right after Hal says, "It's right there," although I can't make out what was said.
It's right there. It's right there. It's right there.
Wait. 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 We're going to introduce ourselves in case you want to address any of us by name. My name's Kimberly.
My name's Steve.
I'm Lindsay. I'm Deb.
I'm Hal, you know me.
This is where Hal comes drinking, right?
I used to. Can't handle it anymore.
Temperature's dropped 1 degree. Very rapidly.
I actually can feel it on my hands.
Can you? It's cool. No. Yeah, there's just a breeze on my hand. Now we've heard that there's a gentleman that's been seen down here by a couple, well actually just the wife, on one occasion. If you're here and you'd like to communicate with us, could you please come forward, come into this room and let us know that you're here? You can knock on something, stomp your foot on the wooden platform, speak near my microphone, or flicker the candle. It's a cold breeze right down here. Does anyone else feel that? I feel it.
Yeah.
It's only about knee level. Wait. Jeb, you could hear that?
Yeah,
What did it sound like to you?
it was almost like there was a walking. In
Yeah, I
the
heard the walking.
distance, yeah.
It was on stone though, it wasn't on gravel.
Yeah.
At one point in the evening, we were witnessing odd variations of light occurring just outside the windows of the cell.
Are you guys anywhere near the stairwell that goes down to the jail? What is with the light out there? It is. Look, it's like there's people out there with flashlights or something, and these guys aren't answering me. Oh, you know what? If I'm going out there, I'm taking my audio recorder and I'm walking through that. What was that? What was that?
That was you.
No, my.
I thought it was him. Sounded like a pump right behind me.
Yeah, it sounded like over here.
Maybe the timing's working.
Did you see my did you see my flashlight just do that?
Yeah.
That's what I was reacting to.
You didn't hear the thump?
I think I was just too freaked out that my flashlight just turned itself off.
No, that was a loud thump, Kim. That was a really.
I did not hear it, I swear to God.
It was like,
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I just assumed it was one of you guys because,
it was loud. But I didn't feel anything reverberate on the wood.
did somebody just shuffle?
But I didn't feel anything reverberate on the wood. But I didn't feel anything reverberate on the wood. But I didn't feel anything reverberate on the wood.
When Hal goes out to investigate the source of the light anomalies, Lindsay, Deb, and I discuss the possible source of the thud that they all heard.
Yeah, I thought it was terrible when she stepped back, but she didn't step back as far as you guys did. The wood there.
No, it really, I thought it was, it almost felt like it was coming from above as well.
Here is the audio clip slowed down slightly to allow you to hear the word more audibly. What made this EVP interesting was the fact that we later learned that soldiers imprisoned in these cells were made to stack heavy cannonballs as a form of punishment.
It's gotten really cold in here. I've got
Yeah.
a really cold breeze on my leg. Which is kind of weird because there's really, except for those little tiny windows, and if you look out of them, they're just a narrow little slit. Like they're not as big as they look there.
Right.
They go into it.
Do you want to know something odd? Well, about halfway down the hill, my nose started to gush.
You have a bleeding nose?
Yeah, I've never had that before.
Really?
Yeah, and I was looking for the bathroom, and I don't know what they were doing there in the.
I have Kleenex.
Oh, no, I'm good now.
Oh, good.
I went straight to the bathroom and stood there for like 10 minutes, waiting for it to stop, but it seems to be all right now.
Did you get a snack?
Oh, yeah, I had a granola bar.
Yeah, your nose or anything just started bleeding?
Yeah.
That's odd.
That's interesting. That's the second person that's happened to.
Really?
Really?
You were here that day.
I was?
We're training the new private at the gate. Remember you said
Oh, yeah, that's
came in,
right.
His nose started to bleed.
That is right. He was in here, and he said, well, I don't know why. I have no explanation for why it happened. He goes, I just thought it was odd.
Well, I didn't notice it. Maybe it happened earlier, but I was looking for the little ramp, and I go to just, wipe my nose, and I'm like, oh, there's a little blood on my hand. And then it started to come down, tasting it, and I'm like, "Ugh." So I don't know. I'm good now.
A week earlier during our walkthrough of the fort, Hal and I had stopped to talk to one of the guards. Hal asked him if he'd ever seen or heard anything while on duty, and he had replied, "No, but I once got a nosebleed while I was working over in the garrison cells." He said that he didn't normally get nosebleeds, so he thought that it was really strange that he suddenly got a gushing nosebleed for no reason. Admittedly, I didn't think there was anything paranormal about a nosebleed, so I quickly dismissed it. It was certainly interesting that Lindsay got a nosebleed in the same place, and things got a little more interesting when I also got a nosebleed on camera a half hour later.
My head's feeling really weird.
All the hair on the very top of my head is standing up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's funny when you said it got heavier here because I had just felt the same thing.
Did you?
I felt the pressure on the chest and I thought, ooh.
I feel it in my head, but I'm way down here.
No. Did anyone else just see that flashlight
I saw
back
it
there?
right there.
You saw it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay, see, how could it be my eyes and your eyes?
That was more like a pink prick though. Or
Yeah, it was, but it was still light, like it was light where there was no light.
Where was it?
right
by the doorway. I wonder, could have been a reflection from the, can you read about that iron will reflect or not?
Oh, God, no.
That's me, so.
You
That's
moved
just you
one.
wearing this there, kid. Can you shine your camera, you're okay. No.
Sorry. What?
Oh,
Some Kleenex?
Yeah.
9.7.
What?
Yeah. Why is it doing that? Did I press something?
No? Oh, yeah, you did.
Did I?
Probably easy to get these. Well, that would have been cool, 9.715. I can taste blood in the back of my throat, but
That's the
I'm not
max
sure.
we
I
got so
don't think
far
it's going
tonight, that was
down.
9.7, I'm just trying to get it to pick up
Yeah,
back.
I have a nosebleed. It's got electric light. It's going down the back of my throat, not the front. I can taste it in the back of my throat. But I've got
Temperature
blood
just
on
took
it.
a big, oh,
And I don't
okay.
know why. It was just, I was sitting here and I could feel something. I could taste,
How did I make it go that high
salt.
just by touching it?
Not the salt, but you know that
What do they do?
copper
Yeah.
taste of blood?
Button,
I could taste it in the back of my,
Accidentally?
yeah.
and it
started
shows what the max and minimum is that we recorded so far.
So sometime you want to be recorded
Yeah.
9.7 today?
Yep, since we started
It was
tonight.
weird because I thought I was getting a runny nose, but I'm like, it's really not that cold in here. I don't know, I think the brain's just going. It was the taste that I could taste in the back of my throat that made me think it was a nosebleed.
Just regular stuff.
Oh,
Does anyone else have a nosebleed?
not right now.
My nose. It's
Oh,
just-
okay, 'cause I heard sniffling, I'm like, this.
That was me, but
Mine
it's
was
just, it's nothing, there's no blood in it.
It wasn't a gushing nosebleed, but I don't think it was coming out here, it was running down the back of my throat.
No, I saw it, it was blood in Kleenex.
Yeah.
Is really just a tunnel that goes through a wall. It's called the Sally Port. Port meaning door, but Sally meaning to sally forth. It's specifically meant for if the fort comes under attack, you can send soldiers to the outer parts of the fort to engage the enemy.
Will we be coming back up through here?
We will be coming back up to another Sally Port on the other side of the fort.
Are you on pause, Megan? No, I'm recording.
Now this is kind of unusual right here because I was told by the security guard tonight that this door was barred. He said he personally put this bar across the door, so I was expecting to find this barred, but maybe I forgot to bar this. I found accidentally digging through some old newspapers. I found a story from, I think it was the year 1900, and there was a sentry here who apparently was marching back and forth on the bridge at night. This was very early in the morning, however, when the sun was just, starting to turn the sky from black to very dark blue.
What time period was this?
This is around 1900, so this was a time when the soldiers did march back and forth across the bridge at night. So the sentry, all by himself, he said he was walking back and forth doing his beat. He's not supposed to walk the whole time, he's supposed to stand there, so every 5 minutes or so he'd take his beat. He said that one time while he was taking his beat, as it was getting a little bit lighter, he looked down here in the ditch and he thought he saw something lying somewhere in this area right down here on the ground. And he couldn't make out what it was though, so he carried on with his beat. And then a few minutes later he walked the beat again. And after doing this several times, he started to make out that it looked like there might be a human being lying down here. So he went into the guard room, which is, see those two windows up there? And he went and told the corporal of the guard that there was maybe somebody down here. The corporal of the guard left the guard room and walked down this sally port here and came to somewhere down in this area here, and they found a woman wearing a light-colored dress lying face down on the ground here.
Oh, wow.
And they rolled her over and found that she was in fact dead. And strangely enough, they found that half of her face had been removed.
While the group were getting the video camera set up in the tunnel, Nikki's audio recorder was still rolling. In the following clip, you will hear two separate conversations, Nikki and Megan talking and Yvette talking with Mr. Adams. While they are carrying on, a female voice can be heard in the audio asking for assistance.
It's EMP session, every 5 minutes, and of course, we something please with help.
Yeah.
Big of a deal.
Is it?
Yeah, we've got it on, there's a video on our website actually that shows it. Something please with help. Something please with help. Something please with help.
Over the years, there have been many reports of the apparition of a woman in a white dress being seen roaming the fort. While it has been suggested that perhaps she is the jilted bride of Sergeant Major Edwards returning to look for her fiancé, this EVP leads me to believe that perhaps she could be the woman who was murdered in the defense ditch. Sudden and violent loss of life are often associated with hauntings. It sounds like she is still trying to get someone to come to her aid. While Megan was trying to get the IR light sorted, Nikki's audio continued to record. The following EVP was caught during setup. What makes it interesting is that LWPI members had earlier been told about a Girl Guide campout that occurs each year in the trenches surrounding the fort. It sounds like the spirits were acknowledging our conversations.
Flashlights off, please. No, you can't even see her IR unless. Flashlights off, please. No, you can't even see her IR unless.
Was there anything you wanted to ask?
I suppose I've never talked to a ghost before. There are a couple of people that I'm researching here at the Citadel. A Sergeant Major Edwards. And a Miss Cassie Allen.
So you can address them directly.
Would you be able to talk to them on my behalf? Is that all right?
The Sergeant Major Edwards that Mr. Adams is referring to was a member of the Royal Artillery and was found dead on his wedding day, November 14, 1900. The New York Times reported that his body was discovered at the door of his quarters and a carbine was found nearby, which either by accident or suicidal intent had been discharged and a bullet from which had passed through his head. News of his death was carried to Trinity Church, where his bride, Cassie Allen, awaited his arrival. The friends of the Sergeant Major were unable to believe that he had committed suicide. He was 40 years of age and had seen 19 years of service. It later came to light that his superior officers, who upon seeing the wedding announcement in the papers had questioned Edwards. They knew that he had been married in Bermuda, but were not positive if his wife was still living. When they asked him about this, he muttered that he would only do what was right. This was taken to mean that his wife was dead. It turns out that she was in fact alive, living as an inmate of an insane asylum. Edwards could not go ahead, and to settle his troubled mind, he killed himself as his would-be bride stood waiting for him at the altar.
Is there Sergeant Major Edwards here? Did you hear that behind me? Mm-hmm. It sounded like a chop, like
I heard that out there too, because I looked at you and you were staring. I started to do the walking symbol.
When the audio was reviewed, there was so much more than footsteps or shuffling going on behind Nikki. Listen closely as you can hear what sounds like a reverberating boom and then talking. I've marked what I can decipher.
Did you hear that behind me? Does anyone else go like major ringing in their ears and
Yes.
you have that
Yeah.
feeling in your
Do you have like a pressure?
That's what I have, a pressure.
What happened to my forehead? It feels like someone's pushing on my forehead.
There's still pressure in my chest right now.
Although we didn't pick anything up on our independent audio recorders, if you listen closely to the audio that is recorded through the video camera, you can hear a male whisper something as Megan is explaining the pressure that she's feeling on her forehead.
That's what I have, a pressure.
What happened to my forehead? It feels like someone's pushing on my forehead.
That's what I have, a pressure.
What happened to my forehead? It feels like someone's pushing on my forehead.
There's still pressure in my chest right now.
Hello? My name's Nikki.
I'm Yvette.
Mr. Adams here.
And I'm Megan.
Is there anyone that would like to communicate with us? We have something called a recorder, more than one of them in this room. And even if we can't hear you, our recorders will pick up your voice if you want to speak. Can you tell us your name? Is there someone who's usually here? Okay. Could you just turn the light off? Just that. If that was you, could you turn my light back on, please? Or not?
I don't have a flashlight.
No.
Everyone had an experience of some kind or another during the investigation. One of the audio recorders that I had placed on the windowsill in the inner garrison cell turned off 3 times without explanation. Deb Smith watched as I pulled and tested the batteries, showing that they were fully charged. The next day, while running a test on the recorder, I was able to record continuously for over 8 hours until the batteries finally died on their own. I have no explanation for why it kept turning off. Nikki's video camera light turned off inexplicably during an EVP session in the same area of the fort, leaving their group momentarily sitting in the dark. In closing, the Halifax Citadel National Historic Site of Canada is a fort rich with history. During a daytime tour, you can enjoy the haunting sounds of a bagpiper while you take a step back in time to 1869. At night, you can attend a ghost walk and be guided through the fort by candlelight while your guide recounts some of the many sightings and experiences that have been reported over the years. We've only shared a few of them with you, and in the process of our investigation, we may have experienced a few more that can now be retold.